All right, what's up, guys? Gabe the Great back again with another video here to bring you part two of death. Talking about death today. And today we're going to be talking about suicide. Okay. I want to offer a unique perspective on this. At least I believe it's unique. That I think may help us navigate the idea and the concept of suicide. I think yesterday when we talked about death, I talked about how the fear of death is irrational. Okay, so this is a part two. So go back and watch yesterday's video if you didn't get that part. But we discussed how the fear of death is irrational, fundamentally, being afraid to die, right? Because one, it's going to happen. Right? It's going to happen. Your body already has an internal system that protects you from danger, right? It's why, the fight, flight, fawn, flee, all that stuff. Adrenaline rushes through your body. So when you are in real dangerous, immediate dangerous situation, your body typically responds, right? And so when we have this fear of death, this fear of this thing that, as a matter of fact, is going to happen. There is not one human being in the history of humanity who has never not died. Okay, so everybody's going to die. Okay, and one of the things that gets played on, particularly here in America, is our fear of death, is our fear that, if I don't do this and if I don't do that, if I don't work this and I don't make this much money and this could happen, we catastrophize. And our very complex system, our very complex way of dealing with reality, we believe that, if we don't do all these complexities, something terrible will happen to us. And I talked a little bit about how that system, that American cult, this system of capitalism, this even religion, right? I talk about in my video on TikTok. You guys can follow me on TikTok at Gabe the Great. In one of my videos on TikTok, I talked about how Christianity it promises you eternal security, but what it really gives you is eternal anxiety, right? Everyone gets afraid of this death moment. Am I going to go to heaven? Am I going to go to hell? And yesterday I tried to kind of dispel this idea that any of us need to be afraid of death. It's going to happen. Okay. Now kind of, grounding us back into, if you guys don't know, I wrote a manifesto. It's called the Overman's Manifesto. I'll leave a link in the bio for you to download for free. It's a 103-page manifesto. I wrote it last year. Really to help ignite a spiritual revolution here in the United States of America, because we're not going to get out of our corrupt America, our corrupt system, until we have a spiritual revolution. We literally have to rebel against the idea of America in its founding, because the idea of America in its founding is to distort meaning. Let me say that again. The purpose of the American Constitution is to distort meaning. When they said all men are created equal, or they talked about freedom, justice, and liberty for all, they were not talking about all. They were not talking about black people who were considered chattel slaves, meaning that even the children born to them would be considered property. Think about that for a second. They were considered property. We're talking about a country who founding fathers who didn't think women should have the right to vote. We're talking about a constitution that didn't think poor white men should have the right to vote, that treated children like child labor, right? And even now, the Department of Education has now shifted K through 12 to the Department of Labor. We are back. It's not we're going back. It's we are back. We are back into a situation where the main purpose of everybody in society is to labor for other human beings who are not, quote unquote, superior to you, because white supremacy is an illusion. And white people don't exist. Black people don't exist. We're basically all different shades of brown, except, quote unquote, white people, right? But the purpose of America was to distort meaning for power. If I can get everybody to believe that the United States of America is a place of freedom, justice, equality, and I can get you guys to believe that the people will protect the idea of America. And that's what's happening right now in the United States of America. I always say this, Donald Trump is not a problem. He is a reflection. And too many people are afraid to look in the mirror and go, wait a second, we are upholding the idea of America whose original intent was to distort meaning for everybody so that a few could have a little bit. This is very important because if you go through my manifesto, one of the things that I discuss in the manifesto is how human beings are the universe getting to know itself. And we are the meaning makers of reality, meaning that meaning doesn't exist outside of humanity. The animals don't debate the stars or justice or supremacy, right? These aren't things that other creatures on this planet debate. And until we discover otherwise, we are the meaning makers of the universe. We are the universe getting to know itself. Our level of consciousness allows us to describe the world around us for other humans. And through that, we create shared meaning. But every individual human itself is the universe getting to know itself, right? I tell people like this. If you were consciousness, the only way you could get to know yourself is by breaking yourself up into millions and trillions of different pieces of consciousness, all at varying levels, not just through humanity, but through the animals, through the stars, through everything. Because the only way you can get to know something is by contrasting it against something else or comparing it to something else, identifying it separate from yourself. That's the only way that you can get to know something. And so as conscious beings, we are consumed with knowing, consumed with knowledge, right? This is why the pro-human movement, we want to see education come from behind the paywall, because education is what humans naturally do, is we learn. And it's us playing with the unknown, playing with what we don't yet understand, which leads us to create meaning. This is a very important thing because it's going to ground us. I'm going to be in my manifesto in the death section. Actually, we're probably going to start on page 84. That's where I get into suicide. But it's very important to understand that as human beings, our purpose is to create meaning. And here in America, we live in a country that was explicitly started to distort meaning. The founding fathers did not mean all men were created equal. That is objectively false, and we know that by the way they lived. They did not live what they wrote. The Constitution does not give freedom, justice, equality to all people, because if it did, number one, we wouldn't need a bunch of amendments, and number two, it would have been rewritten by now. Because even Thomas Jefferson says that this needs to be a living document that needs to be rewritten every so often. Okay? So we live in a country that distorts meaning. Your best, the quote unquote best, the people at the top of society are not your best. They're not your smartest. They're not the most intelligent. They're not the strongest. They're the most greedy. They're the most selfish. They're the most willing to deceive. They're the people who are willing to destroy other people's humanity for the sake of themselves. That's who gets to the top of society. And the job of the cult of America is to get everybody else to believe that if you work hard enough, you will be fine. If you work hard, if you just work hard and do what you got to do, you can achieve the American dream. And that's just not true. And it's never been true. Okay? So we're going to get in here into we're going to talk a little bit about suicide and how oftentimes people don't understand, but suicide is oftentimes a meaning collapse. If you are a human being, your purpose in life is to create meaning. You're creating meaning of this video. You're going to create meaning of 5 seconds from now. You're creating meaning of the future. You're creating meaning of the past. You can't stop creating meaning if you tried. If I told you stop trying to create meaning from stuff, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it for an hour. You couldn't do it for a day. I don't even think you could do it for a minute to not create meaning. You are that is your natural state. And once you understand human beings as meaning makers, and you understand that you live in a country that is designed to frustrate meaning and frustrate purpose, now suicide starts to make a little bit more sense. Okay, so this is the perspective that I want to offer everybody. So I'm gonna grab me a glass of water, be right back, and we'll jump into this. All right. We're going to be on page 84 of the manifesto. Link in the bio if you want to download it. www.mercyformaya.com. Okay. Starting in, let's just start at the top. I was going to start at the second paragraph, but we'll start at the top. Give us a running start. So if you want to defeat death, stop running from it. Face it. Let it shape your values. Let it humble your ego. Let it remind you that your time is limited, but your impact doesn't have to be. You were never meant to live forever. You were meant to live fully. And when you do, death isn't a thief. It's a release. It's a return to the infinite. So go live. And when your time comes, die like someone who was never afraid to be fully alive. The fear of death isn't universal. It's personal. It's not about dying. It's about you dying. What happens when I'm gone? When my voice goes quiet? When my dreams evaporate? This is the voice of the ego, terrified of losing control, terrified of being forgotten. But here's the cosmic joke. You will be forgotten. Not because you didn't matter, but because in the scale of stars and galaxies, none of us matter. Not unless we choose to. Not unless we create meaning where there is none. That's the paradox of death. It is both the end of all meaning and the only thing that makes meaning real. And this is where the crisis of suicide lives, between those two truths. Suicide is often treated like a mental malfunction. But what if it's more than that? What if it's not just mental? What if it's existential? What if it's not about brain chemistry, but about meaning collapse? We don't tell people that they are meaning makers. We tell them to follow a script, live like this, vote like this, believe like this, love like this. And when that script doesn't work for them, when the motto of a good life doesn't fit, they feel broken. When the world they were born into refuses to see them, hear them, or free them, it's no wonder they consider opting out. Suicide makes sense in a meaningless world, especially when that world is run by narcissists, people who turn the spotlight on themselves and leave the rest of us in the shadow. When the bar for success is set by dead men and outdated myths, when entire systems are built to frustrate individual purpose and elevate obedience, the soul withers. And the only rational conclusion is that maybe it's better not to be here. But here's the deeper truth. You are not here to follow someone else's meaning. You are here to create your own. You know, I did a video on TikTok, I believe it was earlier today or yesterday, where I talked about right now I'm unemployed. And being unemployed right now was very interesting because right now we just hit the layoff is at the highest it's been since the pandemic. And people are saying that the layoffs are actually going to get just as bad, if not worse, than the Great Depression. So you're trying to look for a job, right? I'm trying to look for a job. But here's the other thing. A lot of these job postings are fake. They're just trying to get our data so they can sell it. So, and a lot of companies are posting that they're hiring, but they're not really hiring. On top of that, even if you get a job, it's not going to be enough. This isn't the 90s and early 2000s where it's like, just get what you can and then, get something better. No. Everybody's working 2-3 jobs just to survive. And it's funny. I share it with people that I feel free from the system right now, right? I feel free from it. I feel like I don't have to, I'm not beholden. I'm not a slave, right? Because that's spiritually speaking, being unemployed, looking for a job in the United States of America feels like I'm trying to work hard to get back in slavery. I'm free right now. Can I go out to eat and get the best? Do I have to ration my food? Absolutely. Do I have to budget so that me and my daughters have? Absolutely. But man, I'm free. I'm free because every time I fill out an application, every time I try to get back into the system, my spirit, my soul goes, Gabe, for what? You know it's slavery. You know it's bullshit. You know if you get this job, it's still not going to be enough. And you know from 2 decades of working your ass off, 10 to 14 hours a day, that even if you work hard, it still won't be enough to get ahead. It's a meaningless system that we have right now. And so we try to look at suicide from an addiction standpoint of view, from a mental health standpoint of view, looking purely at the brain. We try to look at it from a relationship point of view. And what I'm offering is, what if we look at this from an existential point of view? What if we look at this from a meaning-making point of view? Human beings are meaning makers. Again, I don't even need you to believe that. Just try to not create meaning today. You're going to do it. Even when you figure out that there's no meaning to something, that's you creating meaning. That's you going, that is non-meaningful. And so when you look out into American society and the worst of the worst get to the top, the pedophiles get to the top. The people who commit treason get to the top. The people who commit fraud get to the top. The people who do the antithesis of what it means to be a human. These are the people who are worshiped and celebrated and who make it to the top in American society. The people who distort meaning, the people who scam, the people who manipulate. These are the people who get to the top of American society. But you tell the rest of us we need to work hard. You need to tell the rest of us we need to be virtuous. You need to tell the rest of us that we need to be righteous. That's what you're telling. The rest of us need to work hard when the people who earn billions, they don't work hard. The billionaires don't work hard. There is not a billionaire on this planet that works harder than you. I promise you. It's all propaganda. Them going to meetings all day in luxury hotels is not work compared to what you do. And I want to validate that for you, because it's that not being validated which makes suicide rational. Because your spirit, this world that's focused so much on the material, is not connecting with your spirit. And even when you go out there and do the material, the work is meaningless. You tried in this relationship, you thought it meant something, and then it was heartbreak. Or you try to, do this career or have this relationship with parents or kids, or maybe your whole life has been abuse. And you're like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not perfect, but I don't deserve the mistreatment that I'm getting. I don't deserve working 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to barely get by. I don't deserve, I should not have to listen to pedophiles and treasonous people and people who just want to protect the wicked and take advantage of the vulnerable. That doesn't make sense. Why am I living in such a way that is the antithesis of what it means to be human and the antithesis of how to get to the top? I don't even want to be at the top. I just want it to stop hurting. I just want it to make sense. I don't believe suicide is irrational. I believe we live in a very materialistic world that doesn't speak to our spirit, doesn't speak to our soul. It doesn't speak to universal consciousness. Even, I believe our religion, our main religion in America, Christianity, is spiritual narcissism. It's a spiritual narcissistic death cult. Who cares if Jesus is the Son of God? You do, great. That doesn't mean I have to. That I can go create meaning somewhere else. And this is the issue. Ever since you were a child, society has stifled your creativity. Society has stifled you searching for meaning. Think about infants. From the second they come out of the womb, they are searching for meaning. They are searching for, they're putting things in their mouth. What does this mean? What does that? They're putting fingers, hands, they're trying to discover meaning. That's what infants do. That's what toddlers do. That's what children do. And then we warehouse everybody in a school system. And now we tell them, we give them a very narrow way of living and say, you got to live this way. You got to answer the questions this way. You got to do your work this way. You got to do. You give everybody a very narrow way of living and tell anybody, if you are outside of this very narrow class of humanity, your life is worthless. You've did something wrong. You're lazy. You're not working hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. You're not educated enough. You don't have a high value skill. I don't want a high value skill. I want to be a high school basketball coach. That's what I want to do. I want to be a high school basketball coach. I don't want nothing crazy. But you can't do that. That can't be your love, because you got to go do something else. You got to go do this meaningless work that you don't care about. And that is your life. Every single day, you do meaningless, repetitive work over and over and over and over again. And if your spirit, if your default as a human is a meaning maker, is someone who their part of being a human is engaging with the unknown, right? And in my manifesto, I put before you guys that reality is made up of three things: self, society, and the unknown. The self is made up of universal consciousness. You can call it a soul or spirit, whatever you want to. Universal consciousness, the body and your environment. That creates you. Society is when a bunch of individual selves come together to create shared meaning. And then the unknown is not this philosophical escape hatch. It is essential to humanity. Because when you first got here, you didn't know anything. And then what happens is society tells you, oh, now we figured it out. We figured out the truth 2,000 years ago. We figured out, how society should work in hundreds of years ago. And it either needs to be capitalism or socialism or communism. It's these three. And you're looking around and going, but we live in an infinite universe. You're looking around and going, shouldn't we have more ways of living? The wealth shouldn't just flow towards one group of people? That doesn't make sense. And none of this makes sense, combined with the trauma, combined with the abuse, combined with the fact that nobody cares. Listen, I'm a guy. If I don't call my family's not calling me. I haven't got an invite to Thanksgiving in over a decade. I don't think I'm going to get an invite to Christmas this year either. And it's been that way my whole life. It's been that way my whole life. This feeling of loneliness, like you were just thrown out into infinity with no instruction manual, no blueprint, right? I talked about in other videos being a parentized child and how since I was 8, 9 years old, it was you got to be the man of the house. That doesn't make sense. I've never had a man in the house. And now that I've grown myself into a man that I like, now I don't have the connections that I need. And there's so many of us who have stories like that. Our families aren't family. Our jobs aren't meaningful. And we're in a system that stifles our creativity, that tells us if we don't live a certain way, then we're not a real man. That if we don't do things a certain way, that we're toxic or abusive or this or that. And it's like American society was built for a very small class of people. And we're watching this small class of people take that to its extreme logical end. It makes sense, guys. I just want to put before, I'm not saying that we don't grieve those who pass away. I'm not saying that it's not hard. I'm not saying that it's not tragic. I'm saying that it makes sense, man. It makes sense. It makes sense. This life that our country Again, I focus this mostly on America because that's where I'm at. But this life that our country has said that we should have, it goes against everything we feel in our spirit. Everything, our souls are hurting. Our souls are being tortured under this system, underneath this constitution, underneath these laws, underneath a government ran by pedophiles and pedophile protectors and treasonous people. Our souls are withering. Sometimes you can physically feel your soul hurting. Your body's physically hurting. Your soul physically hurts as well. It makes sense, man. I watched a video yesterday of the Sky King. I don't know if you guys heard about this. His name is escaping me. I believe it was Bebo, but it was a guy who he stole a airplane. He stole an airplane. He was just flying it around, and it was a sad because his last moments you could hear on the on the intercom on the radio, and he's talking to the air traffic control, and you could just tell they knew why he was doing what he was doing, and you could tell that he didn't plan on getting out of that plane. And one of the things he does right before he drives the plane around a little bit and before he finally crashes it, and one of the things he does is this barrel roll. He's like, man, I want to try a barrel roll. I want to try a flip. And he goes for it. He does it, surprises himself. And you can hear it. You can hear him talking about how surprised I was like, I thought that was going to be it. And they're like, yeah, man, let's come on, let's bring it in. Let's land the plane. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to, man. And we can listen to that, and to us, that's tragic. That's sad. And I don't know everything that was going on in his life. I haven't seen the documentary, but when I was listening to his last few moments, right? It's always eerie listening to somebody's last few moments before they go. You could tell that he was struggling with meaninglessness. It sounded like he didn't want to go, but he didn't want to stay. And it didn't make sense for him to stay. I genuinely believe sometimes suicide is universal consciousness telling some people you've created the meaning that you need to create. Or the meaning that you thought was here, it's not there. Everybody's lives means something. But we live in a society that says only a few people's lives mean something. So yeah, a lot of people are going to be suicidal. A lot of people are not going to be happy. Because the system, the society that we are contributing to every day, the society we wake up every morning, this is better than slavery. Think about it. Think about it from the position of a owner, from the position of a billionaire, from the position of, a ruler. Slavery sucks because with slavery, you got to keep punishing people. You got to keep whipping them. You got to keep the physical labor. You got to provide them housing and shelter and food and this and that. Consumerism is slavery perfected. People convince themselves to become your slaves, to become your wage slaves. People convince themselves to give their entire lives to this country and this system that doesn't care about them. We don't talk enough about how a lot of men who commit suicide used to work, or not used to work, but served our country in the military. These men who literally make us the strongest country in the world, we treat them like they're nothing. And then on Sundays in the NFL, we'll parade the military around like we care about our veterans. And you gotta sit there with that. As a child, as a mother, as a parent, as a father, you got to sit with the fact that your country is ran by pedophiles. Even the school shooters are suicidal, guys. Even they are suicidal. America is a death cult. America is a death cult. Suicide makes sense, and that's sad. I think that's the real tragedy of suicide, is that fundamentally, deep down, a lot of us know that it makes sense. It's not as irrational. It's not as, they're not as horrific. They're not just giving up. Makes sense. If you live in a world that is constantly trying to frustrate your meaning and frustrate your purpose, it makes sense to not want to be there. And so I know that every single thing tells you like, oh, don't do it. Don't do it. And I would like for more people to be here, but I get it, man. I get it. You're going to spend the rest of your life as a wage slave. I get it. If you look out on the future and you see you're going to spend the rest of your life being abused, you're going to spend the rest of your life being lonely. Let me tell you, I don't know how I got through 2022. I don't know how I got through 2022. The only thing that got me through 2022, because that was a very dark year for me, extremely dark, probably the darkest year of my life. 2022, early 2023. The only thing, guys, and this is even more fucked up. I think the only reason why I'm still alive right now is because I found out about my nonverbal autistic daughter getting abused by her special education teacher. And I wake up every day driven by that because I'm full of rage. I'm full of anger. I'm full of hurt. I'm full of grief because my daughter deserves better. I don't give a fuck how long this system has been in place. I don't give a fuck who's at the top of it. I don't care if I got to go through Trump, Netanyahu, Elon Musk, Larry Ellison. I don't give a fuck. My nonverbal autistic child deserves to be treated like a human. And if it wasn't for that burning passion to create a world that works for my offspring, that works for another physical manifestation of myself, if it wasn't for that, I don't know that I would be here making these videos for you guys right now. I'm gonna be honest. And that's tragic and it sucks. And I carry around a lot of hatred, resentment. And people say, oh, that's not healthy, that's not good. But what if your country is ran by pedophiles? What if your country is ran by treasonous people? What do you mean I'm not supposed to be angry? What do you mean I'm not supposed to hate? What do you mean I'm not supposed to be mad? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. We're supposed to be angry. We're supposed to be upset. But when you tell us that we can't, what do we do with those emotions? What do we do with that hatred? What do we do? What do we do with the hurt? What do we do with the pain? What do we do with the grief? And I'm sorry if you thought this was going to be a video where I was going to talk you off the ledge. I'm not here to talk you off the ledge. I'm here to say I get it, man. I get it. I get it. I get it. The only thing I would say is this. But here's the deeper truth. You are not here to follow someone else's meaning. You are here to create your own. That's your divine task. That is your only obligation. Your purpose is not pre-written. It is not in ancient scrolls or legal codes or dead prophet sermons. It is in you. It is your universal consciousness, in your body, in your environment. The reason death matters, why it's so overwhelming, is because it forces us to answer the only question that has ever mattered. What will you do with the life you were given? And for those of us who felt suicidal or wrestled with the void, your thoughts are not shameful. They are proof that your consciousness is awake. You have met the abyss, and now your work is not to try to escape it, but to create something that gives it shape, to stare into the void and write meaning across it with your life. That's how we fight death. That's how we defeat despair, not by running from it, but by running towards it and saying, yes, I will die, but before I do, I will live. And if you're still here, it's because the universe is not done becoming you yet, so become. I don't know that I'm not still suicidal, because as far as I'm concerned, I will die before I let these people get away with what happened to my daughter. And if I must die, then I will. But my life, my daughter's life, is going to mean something. That's why I wrote a 103-page manifesto. That's why I went on TikTok for a few months, started the pro-human movement. That's why I'm considering running for governor of Oregon next year. That's why. The reason why is because I know that I'm going to die. I know that death is there, and death has been I've made the video for my daughters. I've recorded the videos for them. I've almost not made it. It was little things that stopped me. I'm at work and I get a call to pick somebody up. I'm a taxi driver. Only thing stopped me from not driving my taxi off of a bridge is getting a call here or there. Or seeing something funny. Only thing that kept me alive some of those days. Only thing that kept me alive some of those days was going into my daughter's room and just sitting down and watching them play. I get it, man. I get it. I get it. I'm not shaming you for being suicidal. I'm not going to shame you for wanting to take your life because I get it. And you are in a country where these people will off you if you get in their way. They have no conscience. They do not care. The only thing I would say is that you get to decide what your life means. I don't want you taking your life believing that your life doesn't mean anything. It's not your task to follow my purpose. It's not your task to follow the purposes of the founding fathers. It's not your task to follow the purpose of religious texts. You are the universe getting to know itself. And there will never, ever, 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 ever be another you. That's it. You are all we got. Your eyes, your vantage point of the universe will never be seen again. And so decide what that means. Decide what those eyes see. Decide what that entails. I didn't know the Sky King, but watching that video, hearing him, I'm never going to forget. And now I'm telling his story. Now you're watching it. Now you may go look up the Sky King. And now all of a sudden, some guy who just committed suicide, he's now a story. He's now a lesson for us to learn. He's now something we can all commune around. That's what I want my life to be. Because again, I don't know that I'm not still suicidal. Maybe all this writing the manifesto, maybe, arguing my daughter's case to the Supreme Court, maybe that's made of me running straight to death because none of this society makes sense. And I'm done people pretending like it does. I just want to put on your heart that your life is not meaningless. You are meaning itself. You are meaning actualized. If you want faith, if you want inspiration, if you want motivation, please download my manifesto. Download my manifesto. I think it'll encourage you. I think it'll help you. It's free, right? Eventually, we're going to put it in like a book, but it will always be free on PDF. But your life isn't meaningless. Whoever's watching this, your life is not meaningless. You are meaning itself. And whether you decide to take your life or not, I want you to know that you get to decide what your time is. You get to decide however many years you've been up, what that means. Don't let anybody take it away from you. Don't let society take it away from you. Don't let hurt, don't let pain, don't let abuse take that away from you. That is your right to decide what your life meant. Even if you want to get out of it early, even if you look at the future and go, there's nothing for me here. There's no reason for me to be here. Even if that's where you land, I want you to know that's not shameful. I want you to know your life meant something. I don't want to encourage you. Leave something so that we can, remember you. Your life can be meaning for us now, like the Sky King's life is meaning for us now. One of the issues, I know we have a policy in the United States not to talk about the school shooters. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's healthy. Because while they committed very heinous and horrific acts, they were also humans. They were also humans who felt like their lives didn't matter. And in a very real way, I think a lot of these guys are sparing the kids in their head. As messed up as that may sound, but if you take a step back and go, what future are these children really growing up to? Again, I don't want school shootings. Let me be very clear. School shootings need to end, period. It's tragic that we're at this place. It's tragic that people have rationalized it'd be better for these children not to grow up, and it'd be better for me not to be here. I think that's tragic. I think that's sad. But I don't think it's beyond our understanding. And I think it's very easy for us to understand when we stop lying to ourselves about what the United States of America is. This is not the land of the free. This is not the land of the brave. This is not what this is the most inhumane, barbaric, brutal country on the face of the earth, and it has been for 250 years. We, the Americans, are upholding a illusion of meaning that doesn't even serve us. I'm not telling you to take yourself out. I'm telling you, you can decide what your life means, okay? So hopefully that helped somebody. I don't know if it did. I don't know if I was supposed to talk. I don't know if I talked anybody off a ledge or anything, but I'm just hoping that, I just want you to know I understand, man. And I don't want you, even if these are your last moments, I don't want you to feel like you're crazy. I don't want you to feel like you're alone. I don't want you to feel like your life didn't matter. As long as your life mattered to you, man, or sis, whoever's watching this, your life mattered. Your life mattered. And I understand what it's like to stare in the void. I understand what it's like to look out into the future, look at your past, look at your present, and feel almost nothing. I get it. I get it, man. But I love you guys. I'll be back tomorrow for another video. I'll see you later. Bye.